Give it a little pep and vinegar.
2021 Stab in the Dark winner, the Sharpeye Inferno 72. It's taken the CT by storm, but wonder what it's like for an average surfer like you or us. Stay tuned. That's probably my worst intro. You're an average surfer. The Inferno 72 was originally designed for Philippe to compete at the surf ranch at Kelly's Wave Pool. That was the impetus for the design for the board. And that comp was in 2020. And so Philippe ended up winning that contest. Stab approached Sharpeye Shaper and convinced him to enter it into Stab in the Dark contest. And I feel like the rest is history.
So what is your history with it, Dan? How long have you been on it?
It's a great segue there, Andrew.
I got this board at the beginning of 2022. And so I got a Inferno 72. You can do it in PU, you can do it in epoxy, or you can do it the Dark Arts, which is epoxy wrapped with carbon. And we have a video that explains whether Dark Arts is worth it. So you can check out that video. But I got the Dark Arts version because it's supposed to last longer. And I've been riding it for almost a year now. It's designed for generate a lot of speed, and it's supposed to be kind of like an all-around board, specifically kind of in like that 2 to 6 foot zone. So anywhere from knee to head high, and then overhead as well. I think it starts to lose, unless you have like bigger fins, it starts to skate out a little bit once it gets bigger, but that's when you use a step up anyway. So
think about what's your best session on that board? What were the conditions?
Well, I'd say the best session was actually Waco Wave Pool. I would say best session. I think one of the times was with both of you guys surfing down at C Street. Yeah, the board just felt really nice when the waves were good. As far as conditions that this excels in, I feel like it's really best kind of in that like waist to chest to head high plus. So you just have a little bit more room to maneuver. You don't need the waves to be very steep. Performs well on slower surf, and it can do really good on faster surf too.
You can also surf it in non-ideal conditions, right? It still looks pretty lively. Like
it looks really good under your feet.
Yeah, it definitely has a pep in its step, and sometimes you're barely have any speed, and you're just trying to do a little turn to close out the wave. It ends up looking a lot better. It's got a little extra juice in it, which is nice. I've had great sessions on this, anything from like a small summer day, 2 to 3 feet, or like pumping like really good point break surf that's like head high, foot or two overhead.
We've been kind of sticking in the Channel Islands realm of boards. I'm curious, what was the catalyst, if you will, for exploring the Sharpeye realm?
I had saved up some money, and it was my Christmas present to myself, essentially. And I was looking I just wanted one go-to board, because I was using, at that time, I had 2 different boards. I had the Channel Islands black and white, which I used for like barrel waves or like a little bit bigger of surf. And then I think it was the Neckbeard, or maybe it was a different wave or a different board, but I just wanted like one go-to board that was good in most conditions. Sure. And that felt nice under your feet. And so like watching Stab in the Dark contest, I watched that. Kilbrock does a good series where he like blind tests like 20 surfboards. And then looking at other people's reviews on how they felt the board performed. And so I looked at a couple different boards, but this was the one that consistently seemed that people really loved. So that's how I got on it.
Yeah, I will give you mad props, because this board is not cheap at all. And I'm someone who has made some questionable surfboard purchases in the past. And you went for it. You went dark arts on a model and dimensions that you had never surfed before. And somehow you got it right. And it looks like a great board, and that's all you surf in any condition for the last year or so. Like it's the only thing you surfed, and it looks great. So like mad props on that. Usually
I agree.
when I swing that big, I miss hardcore.
Well, I swung on the fish beard, not that I
On
was
the fish
swinging
beard, yeah. I
as
was just gonna
big,
say that.
but I swung on that one, and you know,
You gotta
at a
shoot your
couple
shot.
pitches, yeah, you gotta shoot your shot, and so yeah, it worked out. So I'm very grateful.
Dan, tell us about your dimensions for this board because Andrew just talked about it.
So I was between a 6.0, which is 19 3/4, and then 2 5/8, and that's 31.5 liters. So I kind of ride right around 32 liters. So it's a tiny bit less than my previous board, but because it's epoxy and carbon wrapped, it's just a little bit more buoyant. So I felt like I could get away with that. But the reason why I went with that, I was looking at that or the 6.1, which adds some more volume. The wait was going to be like 2 months when I ordered this thing. There was one board that I think someone ordered, but then never went through with. And so it was just available for a discount on their website. So I was like, shoot, let's do it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know. I thought it was like a full on. I thought you had like ordered it in terms of like a customer, or whatever. But it was because it was available. It's the reason why you went with like the slightly smaller.
It was just meant
version.
to be.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
That's great. What about your fins?
Another reason why I purchased this board is because it's known for its speed generation. And so the surf that we're used to surfing in a lot of times is pretty slow and mushy. So I went all in on speed, and it's future fins. And I got what is it? HS1 generation series. So they're kind of similar to the black sticks, but like they're just made for speed. Those fins.
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed, HS1 generation series. I think maybe now it's HS2, but
any regrets? Like would you do a different fin if you're going to do it again?
I would say on most days I love the setup because it helps me get speed. Because it can be a little difficult. But then on days where it's actually like decent, I find myself trying to wipe off speed. Because it just shoots down the line. Yeah, it's like you're trying to go up and do a turn. Sometimes you're just flying so fast, it's a little difficult to control.
That's a good problem to have, I guess. Instead of the opposite, which is you can never get enough.
Correct. But we don't get great waves most of the time, so I don't have to worry about that very much.
In the past, you surfed, the neckbeard or black and white or like some other boards that maybe are more forgiving. To me, this seems like a proper high performance shortboard that happens to work in our conditions.
Yep. I think it's the first board in, I don't know, 5-8 years that has been 6 feet. Most of the boards I've been are exactly what you're saying, more forgiving, a little bit shorter and wider boards.
All right. So you've been on this sucker for a year now. Let's talk some ratings, Dan. This is where the rubber meets the road. We always do performance, fun, and value for our board reviews. Inferno 72, performance, ready, go.
Performance, I'll go 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems like it's, like you can kind of do everything on it. I was curious, is there anything that it specifically that you find itself like lending itself to more? For example, like a cutback or a turn or a certain maneuver? Does it seem to be well-rounded in every, kind of aspect?
It seems really well-rounded. You can do like long carves or like long drawn-out roundhouses. It works really well tight in the pocket with like quick maneuvers. It's very responsive. So when you go up to hit it, it really flexes off of that, which makes the turn look better. Tube riding, I have had a little bit tougher time than some of the more forgiving boards that I've ridden in the past, but it operates fine in the tube. It's just a little bit more
It's a you
chattery.
problem. It's a
What's
you
that?
problem, not a board problem.
It's probably a me problem, but yeah, it's so responsive, which people, if they know what they're doing, is probably great. But for me, it's just a little bit twitches in the tube or chattery, or I don't draw the perfect line, so it's not the best for me in the tube, but it does a decent job.
We do all that tubing up here that we get into, huh?
Yeah, about 10 seconds.
That is what the Central Coast is known for, is our tubes.
Honestly, I think it's a really well-rounded board.
5 out of 5 for performance. That's pretty good. In fact, it can't get any better. So talk to me about fun. I have a guess of where you're going to land here, but yeah.
I will go 4.5 out of 5.
Oh,
I'll go 4.5. Because the performance is there. Because it is a little bit more responsive and less forgiving, I'll catch my rail a little bit more sometimes if I'm going for something. It paddles well. Don't have to paddle very hard. Like, it just gets into waves really easy and is very forgiving. And this board performs excellent. But it's a standard performance board.
So we've talked performance, we've talked fun, and now it's all about value. So we know you did dark arts, right? Sight unseen, bold choice. So how much does it cost? Was it worth it? What do you think?
Off the rack, it was $1,200, which is a steep investment for any surfboard. So the reason I got it is because it's supposed to keep its spring for a lot longer time. They say 5 years instead of 1 to 2. I'm only at the 1 year mark, so I can't exactly speak to if it's gonna feel this springy a couple of years down the road. So I'll go 4.5 because it's super expensive, but I love the board, so it works for me. But it is quite pricey. If it feels this way another year or two in the future, then I'd probably update it to a 5 out of 5. But at this point, a little uncertainty, so I'll go 4.5 out of 5.
All right, Dan, bring us home. Wrap it up.
All right. Well, if you want to surf like Felipe, then maybe you should get the Inferno 72. Although you don't have to go full dark arts. You can go PU, or you can do epoxy instead. It's quite the fun board, but would love to hear feedback, comments, questions. Just leave below. And if you want to support the channel, please like and subscribe.
I think you nailed it.